Hey guys, this is OG from Crypto Nights back with another cryptocurrency update. Unfortunately, as you can see from the title of this video, this isn't the most bullish of videos. So, in yesterday's video and in the videos I've been posting in the past, I kept mentioning that as long as 30K holds, I'm still macro bullish, right? And that even though we're trading below the 200 daily moving averages, that this whole region can potentially be a bear trap for us to before we move back above to continue the bull run, and that in fact I was okay, if we stay in this region for a few weeks or even a few months, so long as we didn't break 30K. And so, unfortunately, that has just happened, right? So, price has just broken 30K. Right now we're trading slightly above it, but if you can see, the low that was made was 29.3K roughly, right? So, there's no other way to put it, but this is definitely bearish, right? So the question is what to do next, right? So as you can see from the title of this video, this is either the best time to buy or perhaps the last chance to sell, right? It all depends on your perspective, because this could end up being, right, if this range is the range that we're going to be trading in before moving up, then we are at the bottom of the range right now, right? So for those of you that wish you could have gotten in at the low of this wick around 30K, now it's your second chance to do so. But on the flip side, right, if we do have a conclusive break of 30K, potentially we're going to see much lower prices, right? The first would be around the 22 to 24K. So we have this order block here, very small, but at least something. And then the next level would be around 20K, right? So it's this support resistance flip, but also the 2017 bull market high of around 20K. So those would be the next two levels that we will be looking at should 30K break. Now, now that we are at this point in time, right? Then we should be looking at potentially lower prices, right? Just in case, just see how bad things could get, right? So if we take 2017 as an example, right, from peak to bottom, it was an 84% drop. So if we just very simply, right, apply the same sort of assumption, where would that take us, right? So first of all, so far we're down about 55% from the peak, right? So if we were to go down to, let's say, around 85%, that would take us to 10K, right? So, pretty rough, because even from the price that we're at right now, this would be another 66% drop, essentially wiping out 2/3, right, of the of your portfolio from its current prices, right? So even though we've already crashed 55 percent, seems like 80% is only 30% more, but math doesn't work that way. So it's actually another 66% down rather than another 30% down. So something to keep in mind. So you have to ask yourself, could you stomach such a fall, right? If we were to go down to 10K and you didn't sell here at 30K, where would you be in the position where you're forced to sell, whether out of necessity, right, to pay for bills, or because emotionally you couldn't handle it anymore, right? Because the last thing you want to do is hodl until the bottom, and then you couldn't handle it mentally, and then you sell at the bottom, and then price rallies back up, and then you FOMO in after it has already gone up quite a lot, right? Because one of the psychological issues with selling at the bottom is you're typically wait also a lot later to re-enter, right? And so because you're going to be mentally wanting almost, right, price to continue going down, so that you're not so that you don't feel as bad, right? Because no one wants to sell at the bottom. So once you do sell, you kind of wish you know what, let me hope the price goes down lower so that either you can buy back in at a lower price or at least prove that you didn't sell at the bottom. And so when price is going up, after you sell, you're kind of thinking, you know what, it's going to go back down. And so after selling at the bottom, you're most likely not going to get right back in, right? You're going to wait until price rallies in maybe 2 or 3x before you decide to finally FOMO in, and that's exactly when price reverses again, right? So now with that in mind, let me pose this question to you, right? The reverse. If you sold here, right, where are you planning on getting back in, if at all, right? So for some of you, maybe you decide to sell here and you say, you know what, I'm done with Bitcoin, right? I'm never touching it again. But for those of you who are thinking of staying in this, for the long term, or at least trading this for the long term, what would be your game plan? And I ask this question because this is a really important question, right? Because if you do sell here, right, hoping to potentially buy back at 20K, that's one plan, right? But then again, if it does fall to 20K, would you be able to pull that trigger, or would you be, in fear, right, and not be able to pull the trigger here? And on the flip side, what if you sell here and we don't go down to 20K? What if this is a fake out, we go back up? Where would you buy back in? Or would you buy back in? Or would you only buy back in if prices fall lower, right? So I'm asking these questions not to tell you what to do, but in order for you to have a game plan, right? And that's all we can do, right? Every one of us is in a different position. We got in at different prices. Our life goals are different. Our financial needs are different, and so we need to have a plan that makes sense within our own personal situation, whether that's from a risk tolerance or a money management or a cash flow perspective or any other reason, family, personally, work, what have you. But you need to ask yourself these questions and make sure that you have an answer to all of these questions, right? Either up or down, right? So if you do not sell here, the same thing, right? If you don't sell here and prices keep falling, how low would you be willing to hold it for? 24K, 20K, 15K, 10K? Where would you be mentally just unable to keep that position, right? And if you don't sell here, if prices rally, would you be planning on selling some because you feel like, at least I'm not having such a big loss, right? So you want to cut your losses, as soon as price gets back, or are you willing to hold it for even longer? So regardless of whether or not you plan on selling here or not selling here, you need to prepare for if prices go up and if prices go down from here, what your game plan is, right? Because you do not want to be unprepared, right? The last thing you want to do is sell here and then prices rally, and then you FOMO back in, then prices come down here, you sell again, right? Because even though this is a small range, relatively speaking, this is still a 20-30% move, right? Depending if you're going up or down. And so if you do that a couple of times, right, where you sell low and buy high, you're essentially wiped out your portfolio, right? So again, if we zoom into the 4-hour, right, since we got rejected at around 41K and we broke down from this rising wedge, we've been in essentially free fall, right? And so right now it's looking like we could potentially close a 4-hour below 30K as well. Zooming in onto the 1-hour, we've already closed the last hourly below. So what could save us, right? So this is obviously very bearish overall. I think one thing that I'm looking for potentially is if this is a fake out, right? And where this is essentially a fake out to the downside. And in order to confirm that thesis, we would need to see price close back above 30K and with strong volume and relatively soon, meaning in the next few hours, right? Because if we don't do that very quickly, then it's not, it's probably not going to be a fake out, right? Because a fake out typically means prices drop really quickly and then bounce really quickly, and then in order to trap those who short the bottom. But if price it consolidates here, even if it does break back above, then this is more of a consolidation structure and potentially a continuation structure, rather than a fake breakdown. Lastly, right, looking into the 15-minute, same story, right? So, maybe if we close this 15-minute above 30K with strong volume, there's no volume right now. But if we do, then 15-minute could potentially be the first sign of this being a potential bottom. But I would at least want to see an hourly close right above, and then in order for me to consider potentially taking a speculative long, right? But I think for most of you, the question right now isn't taking a long or short, right? Isn't trading. It's perhaps the larger portfolio question of how you want to manage your overall exposure and your overall portfolio, whether or not this is time to, cut losses or take profits, right? Depending on where you got into. So, but whether or not to reduce your exposure and by how much, right? That's the other question, right? So if you do decide to sell, how much should you sell? Should you sell everything? Have 50-50? These are very personal questions, but what I'm trying to do here is provide you a framework for thinking through those that tough question, right? Making that decision, right? Making sure that you ask yourself all the important questions before you make that decision, right? You don't want to be making an emotional and rash decision and then come to regret it. So that's Bitcoin. Let's take a quick look at Ethereum. So very sober video today, guys. Ethereum not looking much better, right? We do have this low here at around 1725, 1730. So let's see if we come to test it. But overall, very bearish as well. And the question of whether or not this is the best time to buy or the worst time to sell kind of applies across the board, right? So in yesterday's video, I was telling you guys some of the potential bottoms, right, for these altcoins as well. I mentioned that ADA, Cardano, could bottom at $1, right, from this low. So we're essentially at that point. So either you think that this is a good time to start scaling in, or you think that we need to get out, right? So the same thing with some of the other coins as well, right? So Polkadot, right? So yesterday I said that $13 to $13.5, potentially good potential bottom. But again, of course, if this does break, we could see much lower. So again, you got to decide whether this is good time to enter or not. Personally, though, I'm not. At least my risk appetite isn't at a point where I will be looking to enter alts. I think we are still in a place where there's too much risk in the markets, and for me, holding Bitcoin is enough exposure, enough volatility that I do not need to be holding altcoins at this point in time. So, anyways, guys, be careful. That's one thing I can say is, leverage trading. You might want to put that on hold. I'm putting that on hold for now, and I've been trading a lot less in the recent few weeks, right, as I've compared to before, because the overall market isn't in the condition for that. So anyways, that's it for today's video, and at least right now it's not looking like we're getting that bounce yet. It seems like price is still quite weak. Bears are still quite strong. So take some time and think about how you want to handle your portfolio. Anyways, OG out. See you guys in the next one. If you appreciate videos like this, please do hit the like button and subscribe so that you get these videos on a timely basis. Thank you guys for your support.